Hiya 10, Mrs. Cregan here with your big question of the week, which is how are the good and bad aspects of ambition and power examined in the play? And like all of the other big questions, do a plan first to get all of your ideas down. There's loads you can say for this one, so I've tried to just keep to a few ideas so then you can use these if you want to, or add to them your own ideas to develop it even further. Okay, so I'll go through this nice and quickly. The first thing I want to talk about is Macbeth's fatal flaw. So he's driven by a need for power, and this drive and ambition leads him on his own path to his own destruction. And we see this right throughout the play. At the start of the play, he is presented as brave Macbeth, a respectful and loyal warrior. But then as he gets consumed by his ambition, it really is just a downward spiral. And he knows that the only reason why he wants to murder Duncan really is his own vaulting ambition. And that's a really good quote to zoom in on, because you can talk about this metaphor here with a horse and the rider, and you know, when they jump over an obstacle, it's unknown what they're going to face, and that's like Macbeth and his own worries about murdering the king. So that leads us to the question, you know, would Macbeth have killed Duncan if it wasn't for Lady Macbeth? And remember that murdering the king was the ultimate crime in Shakespearean England, and Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are punished for it, which is important because, you know, Shakespeare was writing this play for the king, and he had to show his audience that committing such a horrific crime would be punished. So the play explores this idea of ambition and no moral constraints will result in destruction. And we see that through Macbeth's actions throughout the play. And not only Macbeth, it also looks at the idea of ambition and power and gender. And we see this with Lady Macbeth. She goes against the expectations of women of the time by encouraging her husband to commit the sin, and we see that she is really ambitious for her husband but also for herself. And again, she is punished because of this. She is also consumed by grief, and you know, at the end of the play she dies, and we're led to believe it's suicide. And again, that would have been a huge sin at the time, and that Shakespeare shown his audience that she is being punished for her ambition. And we also see different types of leadership in the play. Sorry again for the shaky camera work, but we have three very different leaders. So we have Duncan, who's presented as this really kind king but also a weak king. We have Macbeth, who is strong, and you know, he's given the position of being king because the people respect him, but then he develops into being more like a dictator. And you know, we see that in the condition of Scotland during the play under Macbeth's leadership. You know, it's just consumed by chaos. And then we have Malcolm, who presents this kind of healthy balance of power, and we see that when he tests Macduff's loyalty by pretending to not have any of the qualities of a good king. You know, he lists the qualities such as devotion, patience and courage, which really juxtaposes how the audience see Macbeth as a king. So Malcolm represents this idea of a good king bringing order and justice to society, which is really Shakespeare giving a nod there to King James. And then finally, you can talk about the idea of ambition and power and Macbeth's greed. So it's not enough for him. Even when he becomes king, he isn't happy. And we see that when he murders Banquo, because he can't cope with the idea that Banquo is a threat to him. You know, we see that in the quote, "Upon my head they placed a fruitless crown." He kills Banquo, and he wanted also to kill Fleance because he can't cope with the idea that he will be threatened as a king. And Banquo, you know, really is a foil character to Macbeth in a lot of ways, because he is able to control his ambition. You know, he has that ambition, but he also has those moral constraints. And his death is a real tragedy in the play, and Shakespeare uses it to highlight that Macbeth is now so consumed by ambition and power and his need for power that all of his morals have just disappeared, so much so that he's willing to kill a character who he's been close to right from the start of the play. But ultimately, Macbeth is punished. He is punished because of his ambition and his power. You know, like I said at the start, it is his fatal flaw, and he is killed at the end. And again, Shakespeare does this to show that people will be punished if they go against this natural order and the divine right of kings. So, you know, the representation of ambition and power in the play could be a warning to society about the divine right of kings and about the natural order. So lots for you to talk about there. So use this plan if you need to, make your own plan and then write it up as a nice essay response using your quotes and linking it to context and send it over. Thank you very much.